Good afternoon, St. Mike's family. It's one of your fifth grade CCD teachers, Elaine, Miss Elaine. And this is my daughter, Angela.
Hi.
She helped with the last project and she'll be helping again with today's paint and sip. So we are going to talk about the parable of the lost sheep, and we are going to do a paint and sip, and this is the painting we're going to do. In your fifth grade boxes that you pick up, you're going to receive a black paint and a white paint. They may not look like this. They might be in smaller containers. You will receive a paintbrush like this, a little foam brush, and a regular old paintbrush like this. And with those couple things, we're going to create this picture of the sheep. Angela and I are going to paint it together. We're each going to do one. And then as we paint the gray, we're going to mix some gray and paint the background. And then I'm going to read the parable while we let that dry for a few minutes. And we're going to talk about the parable of the lost sheep. So, let's get started. Angela has already poured. These are just paper plates, regular old disposable paper plates. Also, do not wear good clothes in case you get paint on your clothes. You should be wearing some, paint clothes, old sweatshirt, t-shirt, nothing good. Okay, so look, she put some black paint here, right, Ange? And white paint here, and we're gonna mix gray, and we want our gray to be light, not dark, because the tree has to show up on it. So we're gonna go ahead and mix those together, Ange. Probably a little bit more white than black. Right? So mix it up and we'll see where we're at. We have to do enough paint to cover both of these boards, and just mix all that together, I think. Atta girl. And you're using your big brush because we got to do these backgrounds. That looks good. So finish stirring that in and see how dark that gray is. Maybe a little darker. So, you could put your own spin on these paintings. There's no right or wrong. We're going to make it look kind of like this, but you can give your sheep different expressions. If your gray's a little lighter or a little darker, doesn't matter. It's your painting. It can be what you want. I would put a little more white. Okay, so hold it up, and you're going to start from the top and work your way down. Now listen, we're only going to go with the gray paint down to right about here. The bottom third. This bottom part you want white because that's going to be the snow. See how this is the snow? So we only want to paint. That's perfect, Ange. See how Angela's nice sky there? It's got some nice striations in it. She's going to paint back and forth till she gets to about a third or a quarter of the way down, in which case she'll stop, and that will be our line where our snow starts. That's perfect, Ange. And the sky will look best if we finish it by going side to side. Just like you'll have all the paint going in the same direction. And if there's little spots where it's whiter or darker, it's kind of like a real sky. There's clouds, it's not all exactly the same color. Let's see, Ange, how you doing? Beautiful. So you want to go down a little further. That's far enough. That's good. And if you run out of gray paint, it's only those two colors. You can mix it quickly on the fly if you have to. And because we're not really adding water or anything, this will dry pretty quickly. So by the time we finish telling you the parable of the lost sheep, we'll be ready to paint everything else right on top of that dry gray. All right. Okay, grade 5. So I'm going to read the parable of the lost sheep while my daughter finishes her painting the second board. We are sipping. I have my Love God, Love People mug that Rose Stella gave me with some tea. And Angela's got hot cocoa and marshmallows because after all, this is a paint and sip. So get your best, coziest drink. Okay, the parable of the lost sheep. The tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to him. But the Pharisees and scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them he addressed this parable. "What man among you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, would not leave the 99 in the desert and go after the lost one until he finds it. And when he does find it, he sets it on his shoulders with great joy, and upon his arrival home, he calls together his friends and neighbors and says to them, "Rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep." I tell you, in just the same way, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous people who have no need of repentance. That is the parable of the lost sheep. Okay, so I read the parable to you. Now look, we have our two backgrounds done, Angela and I, right? Can you see how that's going to be the painting? Okay, in the meantime, after you use that bigger brush you have to do the background, you want to rinse it. This is just a junk little plastic cup with some plain water, and we just rinse it in the water to get the gray paint off, and I press it in a little paper towel to dry the brush. You want this as dry as you can, because next we're going to use this brush to put white for the sheep when our background paint dries. In the meantime, we're going to talk about the parable. So, a couple words we want you to recognize in the parable are a scribe. Do you remember what a scribe is, Angela? Scribe, they were the lawyers of the religious law at the time, and Pharisees were holy men who were in charge of the temple, kind of like today's priest. So those people were mentioned in the parable, as well as sinners. What do you think a sinner is?
Someone who goes against God's laws.
Can you talk louder so they can...
Someone who goes against God's rules or laws.
Yeah, kind of, right? You might say someone who makes bad choices, or someone who does something wrong, right? We all kind of know what sinning is. We think of a sinner as someone who turns away from God. That's how we look at a sinner, as someone who's turning away from God. So kind of like in the parable, the sheep went away and the shepherd had to go find them. This is like if we sin, if we make a mistake, and we're all human and we do, we're getting lost, we're turning away from God, and Jesus wants to come find us. He never wants to give up on us. He always will come find us. So those are a few words to recognize. Say you did something wrong at CCD class, and we had to talk to you about your behavior in our class. Say you were fooling around. And what if I said to you, what if we were having a live class and you were making noise and fooling around, and I said, I'm going to have to send you to talk to Rose, or I'm going to tell Rose. You'd get nervous inside, right? And then what if that next day at the store, here comes Rose Stella walking up the aisle? Would you go up to her and say, Rose, I made a mistake, I was bad in class, or would you kind of run the other way? Most of us would probably run the other way, right? We'd hightail it. And that's not what God wants from us. God wants us to say, hey, I made a mistake, and not run from the truth and not run from Jesus. Just say, hey, I made a mistake. Let me fix it. Let me come back. So that's that turning away. We don't want to do that. We want to recognize, hey, we made a mistake, and don't turn away from God, but we want you to know God always wants to let you back in. He always forgives you. Okay. We'll go back to our parable in a moment. We're going to do a little more painting right now. So we've got our gray background. Now we are going to put the black in of the tree branches, and we'll go to the legs and the faces of the sheep. So we're going to start up here with the branches. I poured a little plain black on the plate. We take our skinny brush and dip it in the black. And anywhere, I'd start maybe in the top third, right? See how Angela's doing it? You're just going to make branches coming out. They could be kind of whimsical and fun. There's no right or wrong way to make branches, that's for sure. See how you just kind of make like a Y almost? And make your branches just go across the sky. One down here. They could be different thicknesses. Typically, when you're making a tree or a branch, towards the trunk of the tree, they're a little thicker, and then they get thinner towards the edge. So just kind of let it dry up towards the edge there. So I'm going to put another branch down here. And here. How's yours coming out? That's perfect, Ange. That's what's so fun about these. They're all different and they're all very personalized to however you would like them to look. I like mine, Ange. How's yours? Okay. Now leave room for your sheep. Don't go any lower. So see how we kind of leave the tree branches up because the sheep are going to be down here. So we have to leave some space open right around here, okay? So that's all the branches I'm going to do. I think I have enough. You can make as many as you want. You can make it as busy as you want. But leave some room down here. Now, next we're going to go to the white paint. I'll wait for Angela to be done. So, while Angela finishes up her tree, and before we go to painting the white of the sheep, I want to just talk about Jesus and the parable. So Jesus told the parable of the lost sheep because at the time he was speaking to shepherds, and that's what shepherds did. There was a lot of shepherds and a lot of sheep back in Jesus's day. And any good shepherd would lay down his life for his sheep, and he would gladly leave his 99 sheep in the desert to search for that one that got lost in hopes of bringing that one sheep home safely. And that's what Jesus does for us. He laid down his life for us, and he never gives up on us. So if we make a mistake and we sin and we're going down a bad path in life because we made bad choices, Jesus never gives up on us. He will leave his flock to come and find us and always take us back home. And that's what he wants us to know. He wants us to know he is always there for us and he will always welcome us home. And it says he sets his lost sheep on his shoulders just as a shepherd would in great jubilation because he's so happy to find that one sheep that got lost and bring that sheep home safely. When after all, that's what Jesus wants. He wants to bring us home safely. He wants to care for us. That's why he is our shepherd. Okay, let's go back to painting for a second. So, Ange, how you doing on your tree? So look, we have our tree branches, we have our sky, and here's our snow. Now, we're gonna take some nice new white paint that has no black in it. Let's put it here, Ange. Okay, and we're gonna take turns because Angela and I are sharing the big paintbrush. So this is my cleaned off bigger brush that we washed the gray off of and we dried the brush. So now that this is dry, we'll be able to just, what we're gonna do is dab these like round shapes of the sheep right here, a little above our snow line, right? So here's the ground, which is right here. So what we wanna do is make our circles, I don't know, maybe an inch above where the snow of the ground is so we have room for the legs. We're gonna put the legs on after. So watch what I do. Angela, you watch too, and then you'll do it. So see, look, I have all this thick white paint, right? And we're gonna make two round blobs, just like that. And they don't have to be perfect circles, right? Because sheep are made of wool. They have wool and it bunches out in spots, see, like that? That's all it is. There's one of my sheep. Afterwards, maybe I'll make him a little fatter. So we have room. You want to make it big enough where you'll have room to put the face. If you make your circles too small, you can't fit the face, and we don't want that. We want to make sure we have the face. And now I'm going to put my other sheep right here next to him. They're so cute. See, I'm just kind of turning the brush and making little blobs of white. There you go, Angela. There you go. Angela's putting some snow on her tree. We're going to do that. So after we put our blobs down for the sheep, we will go ahead and speck the sky with all the falling snowflakes, and we're going to use our small brush for that. So I'm going to wash my black off my small brush, dry it with paper towel. That looks good, Ange. And don't be afraid to use a lot of white. When you do the sheep, use a lot of paint so it's very opaque. If you hardly put any paint, it'll be kind of see-through. So don't hesitate to put enough white paint when you're doing your sheep. Now watch, I'm going to dip my little brush in the white paint, And we're gonna just speckle the sky with little snowflakes, wherever you wanna put them. Big, small, depending on how hard you push the brush, that's how big your snowflakes will. I like to have them a little, mostly small, so you're hardly touching the canvas. You just kind of go boop, 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 little the polka dots, just like that. All the way, you could cover your whole sky. See how there's snowflakes all over the sky. Angela had the great idea of putting snow on her branches on her tree. Show Angela's painting here. Are you showing Angela's?
I did.
Okay, so I'm gonna do what Angela did because I like her idea of putting some snow across the branches. See, the key is, if you want it really bright white, to put a lot of white paint. And don't spread it around too much. You just kind of leave it in blobs. And then it comes out really white. Angela, I'll give you this brush too to do your snowflakes because it's smaller than that one. So, see how quickly I could just go boop, 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 boop. See, these sheep are kind of lost in the snowstorm. And if these were our sheep, we'd go out and find them right away. But they do look happy. Okay, so now we have our sheep blobs, which are still a little wet, so we're not gonna go and do the heads yet. But see the shadows? See how the sheep have little shadows? We're gonna go ahead and take a little of the gray that's left over from our sky, if it's still wet enough for you. See how we have the gray mixed? And if not, you could just mix a little more white and black. But we're gonna take a little gray and just put right on the ground under where the sheep are. We're gonna put like little shadows. It's kind of cute. See how it's so easy? See right there? It's just like a little blob under where the sheep are. Just with gray. And they don't have to be so dark or anything. Just kind of, there you go. And then when we put our black legs, it'll all kind of start to make sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my black legs now because everything else around there is dry. So whenever we change colors from the white to the black, we rinse it in our little tub of water and dry our brush. Angela's got her shadows. This skinny brush might be better for that, Ange. So look, I'm gonna dip it in black, plenty of black. And look how, see how it's the black of the body of the sheep goes under the circle of white that we made. And then you just make 4 little sticks for legs. So that's what we're working on now. We're not starting the head yet. We're just gonna put, I'm gonna put black right under like it's the belly of the sheep, just like that. And then 4 little legs, 2 on each side. 1, 2.
My sheep is black.
That looks good, Ange. 3 and 4. See, you got 4 legs and the little belly. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other one. The little black belly and 4 more legs. If you could keep them a little skinnier, that's how they look in the picture. They're kind of skinny, but like I said, you might have a sheep that has thick legs, and that's fine too. So I'm trying to let my white dry. It's still a little wet. So I'm gonna give it 1 more minute. Okay, now our white is mostly dry for our sheep. We're gonna put the heads on. This is a trapezoid. I looked it up. It's not a rhombus, it's a trapezoid.
Okay.
So we're gonna make, it's kind of like a rectangle, but a little skinnier at the bottom. And that's gonna be the shape of the head. And we're gonna put it right in the middle of the white, not going over the edges. We're gonna start with the thick side up front, up top, and make it a little thinner going down like that. Plenty of black paint, kind of, so it stays nice and dark. And then I'll put one on the other one. That one kind of has like a little hairdo, so it has a spot of white in the middle. So look, there's our heads, our faces of the sheep. Then we'll go back after. So see how they're not quite rectangles, but they're just long and skinny and a little skinnier at the bottom. And then we have to put the ears. So the ears, just put a little black paint on your tip and just boop, like that. And another little blob on each end of the head. And there's our ears. So now all we have to do is go back and put 2 white circles on each one for the eyes. And then with the very tippy tip of our brush, we'll put a black eyeball for the pupil, a little black spot in the very middle. That's gonna be hard. You have to really try to use just the very tip of your brush. So look, I'm gonna get plain white paint for the eyeballs. I'm gonna put a lot of white paint on the end of my brush. And I'm gonna just put 2 spots. 1, 2. 1, 2. And then all we'll do is put a little eyeball on each one after. And then we're done with our lost sheep picture. Okay, so we are going to finish our sheep picture. I put the white eyes on there, and now I have a lot of black paint, and I'm just ever so gently going to put a tiny black dot in the middle of each eyeball for my little eyeballs. And that's it. I kind of messed up that one.
Mistakes happen. It's okay.
See? So we have 2 sheep out there in the snow.
4
Angela, look at Angela. She didn't like how her sheep came out because she didn't listen to me, and she put the black on a little too soon. So this is what she wrote.
Mistakes happen. It's okay.
That's exactly what Jesus is telling us, actually. It's good that you wrote that, because the parable of the lost sheep is exactly that. We all make mistakes. Jesus says, I know what it's like to be human. Probably even better than your mom, who might say you're punished. All Jesus says is, I'm glad you're back home. And don't turn away. If you make a mistake, the sinning is in the turning away. It's not making a mistake, because we all make mistakes. And Jesus wants you to know that he is always there for you to come home. You could make mistakes for 50 years. And if you come back to Jesus, he will pick you up on his shoulders and carry you around and rejoice and tell everybody, my lost sheep is home. Keep that in mind. Remember that. You make a mistake, own it. But don't turn away. Know that God loves you no matter what. And that's all God's saying. Jesus is saying, keep your eyes on me. Keep your eyes on me. I will come for you. I will never give up on you. Right, Ange?
Yeah.
That's our parable. That's our painting of the sheep. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you get to make yourself some cocoa. Look, my tea is gone. Angela's hot chocolate's gone.
No, it's not.
We had a nice cold evening indoors painting. What's better than that? Have a wonderful season, grade 5 CCD. And we'll see you for next class, hopefully in person.